What if I told you that one of history's most successful civilizations, one that lasted for 6,000 years and literally set the stage for future empires, wasn't built along a river, but right in the middle of a lush, green Sahara desert? Yeah, you heard that right. Today, we're uncovering the people the desert tried to forget.
When you think of the Sahara, I bet you picture this, right? Endless sand dunes, a blazing hot sun, but for thousands and thousands of years, that picture was completely wrong. So the real question isn't if the Sahara was green, it's who was living there when it was.
Because believe it or not, for a huge stretch of history, that's exactly what it was. A green Sahara full of lakes, rivers, and grasslands. And thriving in this lost paradise was a really sophisticated and frankly mysterious people that we're only just now starting to piece together. To really understand who they were, we need to rewind the clock, way back to a time before all the sand, to a world that looks absolutely nothing like the Sahara we know today. So who were they? Well, we call them the Caspians. They're named after a place in modern-day Tunisia called Gafsa, which is where archaeologists first stumbled upon clues of their existence. And what they found wasn't just some small, isolated tribe. Oh no, it was evidence of a huge, incredibly long-lasting culture.
And this is where it gets kind of mind-blowing. Just look at the sheer scale of time we're talking about here. The Capsian culture shows up around 10,000 BCE and doesn't really fade away until about 4,000 BCE. That's a 6,000-year run. You want some perspective? The entire history of ancient Rome, from its founding to its final collapse, was just a little over 1,000 years. These guys lasted 6 times longer.
And they weren't coastal people, which is where you find a lot of other ancient cultures. No, they chose the interior, the massive grassy plains of what's now Tunisia and Algeria. They were truly the people of the green Sahara, and they were masters of an environment that has just completely vanished from the earth.
So, how did they do it? How did they live and thrive for so long in this lost world? Well, the clues they left behind in the rock and the sand, they paint a really fascinating picture.
Archaeologists can actually see their technology evolving over time, kind of in 2 main phases. The earlier phase, which they call typical Capsian, used these sophisticated bone tools and these small, super sharp stone blades called microliths. But later on, in the upper Capsian phase, their tools got even smaller, even more precise, and that's when you start seeing dedicated arrowheads. Now, this isn't just a tiny tweak. This shows a culture that was constantly innovating, constantly refining its toolkit to master its world.
But you know, their biggest innovation wasn't a tool at all. It was an idea. A huge idea. And around 6,500 years ago, they made a leap that would completely change the course of human history in North Africa. They started domesticating animals. Now this is a total game changer. By learning to manage herds of sheep and goats, they became some of the world's very first pastoralists. Think about that. They were no longer just taking from the land as hunter-gatherers, they were actively shaping it, creating their own stable, mobile food source. This changed absolutely everything for them. And this innovation, it fueled a culture rich with art and ritual. But to really, truly get a feel for who they were, we have to look at what they ate. Because their diet holds one of the most bizarre and frankly revealing clues they left for us.
I mean, sure, they were hunters, they were gatherers, and now they were early herders. But one of their main food sources was something you would probably never, ever guess. And this says it all. They ate snails. A lot of snails. So many, in fact, that they left behind these enormous mounds of shells. I'm talking mounds as big as hills, that archaeologists have nicknamed escargot tiers, which literally means snail dumps. These things are a unique signature of the Capsian people, found nowhere else. So when you put it all together, what you see is this incredibly complex society. They were nomadic artists, carving detailed scenes of their lives right onto stone. They lived in wooden huts and caves, they moved with the seasons, and they had clear rituals. They buried their dead in specially dug graves, sometimes right inside those massive snail shell mounds.
But okay, if they were so successful, so adaptable, what happened to them? How does a 6,000-year-old culture just fade away? Well, the answer, as it turns out, is written in the land itself.
The first cause was totally catastrophic and completely out of their control. Their entire world started to die. The climate shifted, the rains just stopped, and the green Sahara began its long, slow march into the arid desert we know today. Their whole way of life, built for those grassy plains, was literally disappearing from underneath their feet.
But here's the crucial part. They didn't just vanish. The end of the Capsian culture isn't really a story of extinction, it's a story of transformation. As the climate got drier, new groups of people moved into North Africa, and they brought new technologies and ideas with them. The Capsians, they didn't fight them, they integrated with them. They blended their cultures and their bloodlines until their unique identity just gradually faded into a new, combined era.
And this is why they matter so much. They weren't a dead end. Historians and archaeologists see the Capsian people as the foundational culture of the entire region. They were the originals, the first innovators, the first pastoralists. They were the ones who established a human foothold in North Africa that would endure for millennia to come.
Their legacy is just profound. I mean, listen to this quote. That blending of cultures that began with them, it created the fertile ground from which later, more famous civilizations would spring. You can draw a direct line from the snail eaters of the Green Sahara all the way to the mighty empire of Carthage.
You know, the Caspians didn't just survive a changing world, they transformed along with it. They merged their culture with new people, new ideas, and in doing so, they created a legacy that outlasted their entire environment. Their story, buried under the sand for all those years, asks us a really powerful question. When our world changes, do we just fight to hold on to what's disappearing, or do we have the courage to transform into something new? The foundations we lay with that choice, well, they could end up shaping the next 1,000 years.
For fun and adventures? Join our family quickly on the Do Snui channel. Click the subscribe button and activate the bell.